welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all abundance. I am Lunar D8, and this is part 6 of reading the Chaos Demons, DAEMONS, a Warhammer supplemental book, Warhammer 40k. We're starting on page 30, and this part is about Galactic corruption. Millennium 40 to 41, time of ending. An age marked by war. I feel like I missed some. Yep, I skipped some stuff. Chaos Rising. Over the eons, the galaxy has witnessed warp-based catastrophes and demonic incursions beyond counting. Since the inception of the Imperial Inquisition, even the fact that such a thing is possible is deemed too dangerous for the citizens of the Imperium to know, for knowledge breeds heresy as surely as a fly-blown corpse breeds maggots. Because of this, the vast majority of knowledge concerning demonic incursions has to be eradicated from extant world records. The events that follow are recorded only in prescribed Imperial texts and heretical Xenos scripts that the Inquisition has yet to destroy. They represent a mere fraction of the ever-increasing instances of warp anomalies that have infested the Imperium. Millennium 15 through 25, the Great Lull. The creation of the warp drive and standard template construct technology, along with the emergence of the first navigators, heralds the start of the golden age of discovery, in which humanity spreads outwards from Terra, colonizes the stars. Warp space, although little understood, is seen as entirely essential to mankind's ascendancy, and is a force associated with hope and salvation. Throughout this period of hope, mankind sees an exponential increase in the number of psychers among its population. Aided by artificial intelligence, continued advancements regularly expand the boundaries of what is achievable. So this period has come to known as the Age of Technology. Millennium 25 through 30, the Awakening. Mankind's galactic collapse comes with terrifying swiftness. The Age of Strife begins. Warp storms break, cutting off swaths of the galaxy and isolating colonies from one another. As holes emerge in real space, corn bloodthirster generals lead the blood legions in demonic incursions and slaughter the populations of countless worlds. The inhabitants of entire star systems are enslaved, yoked to the whims of the dark gods. Across the galaxy, weaponized wonders of mankind's technological peak are unleashed, turning many worlds into irradiated desert planets. The population of those planets that are not utterly annihilated, including Terra itself, are reduced to barbarism. Rise of the Emperor. The mysterious figure known as the Emperor rises upon Terra and unites the techno-barbarian tribes. As the unification wars come to a close, he turns his mind to grander ambitions and genetically engineers the Primarchs and the Space Marine legions. As the Emperor's creations near fruition, Titanic senses a chain of events that would one day cause the downfall of the Chaos Gods. Influenced by the master schemer, the Dark Palace sees the nascent Primarchs and Emperor's sanctum, casting them across the galaxy. The birth of Slaanesh. The advanced civilization of the Eldari falls into decadence and depravity. Such is the scale of their hedonism that a new god is born from the depths of their excess. Slaanesh, the Dark Prince. Upon manifestation, Slaanesh's primal scream obliterates the majority of the Eldari race in a single moment, and their race is pushed to the brink of extinction. The psychic violence of his apotheosis consumes the worlds at the heart of the Eldari Empire. A vast section of the real space is plunged into the warp, forming the rift that is most commonly known as the Eye of Terror. The storms abate, Upon the birth of Slanesh, the vast warp storms that swept across the galaxy are becalmed, reduced in frequency, size, and ferocity. Millennium 30 to 31, dawn of the Imperium. A new order begins to unfold, a force that wishes to forge a galactic empire able to rule the stars. Such goals run counter to the desires of the Chaos Gods, for the power each of them seeks is absolute. The piercing light, a formless murk of warp space, is penetrated by an energy beacon that stabs outward from Terra and across the galaxy. Invisible in real space, the Astronomicon serves as a psychic landmark, a constant navigation point that enables safer warp travel. For the dark gods it is hateful to gaze upon, its constant beam bringing unwelcome order to the infernal seas of chaos. The great game begins anew. Blooded upon the souls of the Aldari, the Dark Prince expands his domain. Such a bold move is met with great opposition, and the Chaos Gods turn their attention fully to the great game. So it is that as the warp storms die down, the Emperor of Mankind is able to lead the united forces of Terra and Mars outward into the galaxy on the Great Crusade. Many scattered worlds are reclaimed by the Emperor, and his legions of space marines and enslaved planets freed from the shackles of domination. The Imperium is officially born, and the Emperor is reunited with his lost Primarchs one by one. Meanwhile, Titanic allies with Nurgle and Slanesh to gain ascendancy over Khorne. Yet it is short-lived. The Blood God's immense rage at being usurped leads him to reclaim his lost territory and more besides. The Horus Heresy. The Emperor returns to Terra, leaving the continuation of the Great Crusade to his Primarchs, each leading a mighty legion of warriors created in their own image. They continue to bring glory and new worlds to the Imperium in his absence. Amidst the triumphs, the Chaos Gods plant seeds of corruption throughout the Space Marine legions. Horus, the Lupercal of the Lunar Wolves, War Master of the Grand Crusade, is the greatest of the Primarchs to fall to the temptations of chaos. A masterful strategist, Horus sways many of his brother Primarchs to join his nascent rebellion against his father's Imperium. A full half of the legions of Astarte follow Horus into damnation, and the demon legions are deployed to aid them. The galaxy is plunged into a civil war that will blacken the Imperium forever. The Scouring Omegon. Xenitic grants the Lord of Change, Ixtharganix, known as the Slayer of Destinies, a glimpse of the child born upon the world of Omagath, who would mature to become a powerful oracle. Ixtharganix craves the power of this child, and uses his magic to open a warp rift upon Omagath. For 20 days, the demonic legions he has gathered sweep across the planet, seeking the oracle to be. After spreading madness and destruction throughout Omagath's population, Ixtharganix finds the prize he sought and steals the boy's warp-born abilities and foresight. The Ravening Storm. The mining colonies of Pictar 9 are cut off from the Imperium for 9 centuries. When the warp storms recede, nothing remains of the billions of miners. Who had lived there, and not attest to the unimaginable agonies the populace endured at the hands of the Chaos Legions. The Curses of Alganar. Upon the desert world of Talara, a dark stone is unearthed covered in strange carvings. Shortly after the Aldari of the craft world, Yotan attacked the desert raiders of the planet in force. As the battle rages, a full-scale demon invasion erupts from the location of the stone. Known as the Curses to its discoverers, the Imperial Guard of Talar and the Aldari of Yotan combined forces against the demon legions. banishing them from the planet as a last-ditch effort. The Cultist is subsequently buried deep beneath a rockcrete barrier. Greed inherent. The rogue trader Apollyon Nova finds a mining operation that produces fantastic wealth. Glaciers of glowing fire diamonds are carved from the rocks, and precious elements are sold to nearby Rubik systems. Apollyon becomes insanely wealthy, but is corrupted and turns to Slanesh's embrace. Only when his tainted coin has circulated through every planet of the Rubik system does his grand design become clear. As Apollyon's moon eclipses Rubia's sun, all those who have shared in his greed are suddenly filled with an insatiable, cannibalistic hunger, leaving those who succumb to it open to demonic possession. An astropathic cry for aid reaches the Imperium. Grey Knights arrive in strength to save Rubia itself from the armies of once human invaders. The rest of the system falls to anarchy, however, as Slanesh claims his due. Lure of the Warp Stars. After a titanic warp storm roils out of the Eye of Terror, the first warp stars are sighted. Stellar anomalies whose unnatural, exact gravitational pull lure spacecrafts and even small planets into their demon-haunted embrace. Millennium 34 through 36, The Quickening. Once more, the Imperium is beset by civil war in the age of apostasy. It is the time of false prophets and intrigue, of anarchy and war, and in the end, plague. As the stages of the age of apostasy unfold, Xenitic and Nurgle become the dominant powers within the realm of chaos. The Cultist Uprising. As the Ecclesiastry consolidates its hold on the Imperium, it is beset by a number of zealot cults nurtured amongst its own ranks. Through whispers, lies, and at times absolute and unbearable truce, over 100,000 rebellions take root in the Ecclesiastry. A deluge of sickness. The droughts of Garo Alphys worsen, and eventually all animal life is sacrificed to feed the tribes, gnawing hunger. The heat drives the tribesmen to pray for divine aid. They turn to the rain dances of old, even sacrificing their own people in hope of ending the drought. Grandfather Nurgle and his minions hear, take pity, and grant their wish. Glorious rain comes, but as each day passes, the clouds thicken and grow more menacing. Deserts turn to lakes, arid croplands to rotting soup. Disease grows rampant. On the 8th day, the tallyman of Nurgle, Epidemus, pushes his way out of the sludge to catalog the disaster. As constant rains lashes down, the pathogenous legions arrive to overcome all. A week later, Garo Alphys disappears altogether from all Imperial records. 8 entire systems follow. The Rodigus Rainfather leading the epidemic legions to spread Nurgle's generosity to surrounding worlds. The Soul Hunger. Roiling currents of the warp continue to leak into real space, building in power to partially obscure the Emperor's light. The Keepers of the Golden Throne demand the number of Imperial psychers sacrifice to sustain the Astronomicon is increased fourfold, and the black ships that collect wretched offerings ramp up number accordingly. With the increase in sacrifices, the Emperor's light once more shines forth across the length and breadth of the Imperium, but the cost in lives is high. The ruin of Phelan 10. The industrial world of Phelan 10 is subjected to a crippling, month-long orbital bombardment under the orders of demon-possessed Admiral Koth. In the wake of his bombardment, the scintillating legions of Xenitic scour the planet. Millennium 38 through 40. A red age dawning. The incessant warring of this period sees the rise of Khorne in the Immaterium, and the Blood God is once more first amongst the great game's players. The chief victim of Khorne's rise is Nurgle, who falls below all his brothers in power. Wrath of the Chaos Sun. In the Maxo Beta system, a red giant star explodes in a warp-tainted supernova. All those touched by its dark chaos energies are mutated, possessed, or destroyed outright. The Imperium mobilizes every military asset within 50 light years of the event, sending them straight to war. The resulting disaster is eventually contained at the cost of uncounted billions of lives. The Changeling and the Maiden. Harlequin, who visit the Eldari of the Craft World, is Sariad, pledging to assist the Craft Worlders in their war against the demon-worshipping humans of the Viliad Collective. The disaster strikes during the Harlequin's traditional pre-battle performance. The Solitaire, who alone can play the role of Nesh, begins to depart from the usual patterns. To the horror of the Eldari present, the Solitaire catches the warrior playing the great Harlequin just as he is supposed to escape from Slash's clutches and breaks his neck. Cackling, the Solitaire reveals himself to be a changeling. Yet before the Eldari can react, the mask of Slaanesh is summoned, and the glamoring, bedazzled Eldari are easy prey. The Demon Heralds vent their spite upon the Harlequin and the Craft Worlder alike, opening a portal into a haunted spar of the Webway and allowing the lesser demons of the cavalcades to pour through. Though the arrival of the Aspect Warrior Warhost saves the Craft Worlds, Isariel effectively has its heart torn out by the losses it suffers. The living plagues of Thruskaseen. The heretically progressive world of Thruskaseen eradicates all natural illness from its populace. Nurgle is offended and infests the world from pole to pole. The plague legions run amok. There are no survivors save a new pestilence that will continue to grow in virulence. Guillotine of Khorne. The 1,000-year war of Midian finally ends upon the Agri world of Pax Veritas. That night under a red moon, every celebrating soldier is suddenly decapitated by an invisible blade. Millennium 40 to the 41, time of ending. An age marked by war, warp storms, and unprecedented rifts between the Imperium and real space begins. Core War of Kochalos. The Necrons of Kochalos awaken to find their planet's inner fire's den. They eventually find the truth in a colossal hollow sphere at the planet's core, where the demon prince of Bulgor now makes his lair. The Titanic Entity, having grown mighty after slaughtering the humans of Kochalos, takes exception to the metal ants stalking through his burrow. He summons his demonic followers and plunges headlong into the Necrons. Battle rages in the darkness until the Necrons are obliterated, and their metal skull is heaped deep within the planet's cold womb. The Horrors of Lysandro. Warp Storm Legions, Iagon, visits its fury upon the planet of Lysandro. Reports of psychic activity multiply tenfold overnight. The ruling body of the planet, Quorum Immaculate, orders the planet's library scoured for any information on warp storms. They find records of an ancient hexagrammic symbol that wards off demonic intervention, a symbol that is systematically implanted as a subdermal electube on all registered citizens. It does not halt a wave of demonic possessions. Every citizen with an electube falls rising to the ground, a pink horror clambering from their convulsing husk. By sunset, Lysandro is overrun. By the time the Grey Knights arrive, every city on the planet has been irrevocably changed. The Grey Knights take the battle to the demons still cavorting in the ruins, but find not a single soul alive. When the purgation teams breach the libraries, they encounter the architects of the catastrophe, the legendary Blue Scribes, who vanish in the Aether. In their wake, it becomes clear that the symbol left in the grimoires was not one of banishment, but of invitation. The Perillian Catastrophes. The Perillian gas belt described in Gunston, the heretics of Proximus, as the blasted remains of some vast star predator, swirls across several star systems, infesting each with demonic incursions. As the pattern of destruction continues, a radical sect of the Inquisition resorts to sorcery to disperse the malignant gas belt. A game of blood. The Flesh Terrors chapter respond to an unfolding conflict in the Adionesis sector and battle against several of Titanitic's conflagration legions, ultimately sealing the warp rift through which the demons arrived. But victory is not as simple as it first seems, for the scheming changeling lies at the heart of the strife, ever manipulating the cosmic strands of fate. The changeling has plans afoot to not only strike a blow against Khorne, but also tempt the flesh terrors toward damnation. The blood tide returns. The blood legions of Khorne rampage across the galaxy. Although one such legion is repelled